welcome to Ring the Damn Bell. I am your host, KG, and with me is one of my co-hosts, the Wrestling Encyclopedia, David Mitchell, aka Dirty Mitch. What's up, brother?
Not much, man. How you doing on this wonderful Thursday evening now,
I am doing good. Can't complain. Can't
I,
complain.
on the
Let's
road, on the road, one day closer to WrestleMania, one day closer to my adventure.
yeah.
Adventures, it's actually going to start getting a little bit of a kickstart because I got a lot of, some of my, well, I guess you could say pre-planning, even though it's, right here at the end. Let's see some of the last minute stuff. I got to get a luggage rack for the top of our Jeep, which is no problem. I have to go down tomorrow. I got a letter today from the license bureau. I got to go down there tomorrow and have some stuff cleared up. So there's more time. Also, I have to go to Springfield, Missouri on Saturday after I get off of work. Right, I work all day Saturday. I'm off Sunday, but after I get off of work, drive to Springfield, Missouri. Actually, I'm doing that early Sunday morning. And then I'll be back Sunday afternoon because it's only about a three and a half hour drive from where I'm at.
Yep.
Gonna run it to hopefully run it if he's back from a weekend of wrestling. Hope to run into my good friend and yours, Big Joe Helms, who will be live on the show with you the 18th. So looking forward for that.
Yep. So that sounds like you have some stuff to take care of before.
Oh yeah.
But let's get to the show. I got some news real quick.
Yeah.
Start off with some bad news. Unfortunately, Pac from AEW is unfortunately dealing with an injury following the April 9th episode of Dynamite. It looks like he somehow hurt his ankle. I actually seen when he did it. I think this is why the match abruptly ended pretty quickly, with Swerve getting the win, which we'll talk about that. But we hope that it's not a serious injury, and hopefully Pac will be back on TV. Next, some surprising news. Mid-Atlantic Territory Wrestling, a promotion that has been around for about 2 years, and seeks to bring back the classic style of territory wrestling presented in a serious way, has a new TV deal. Referee Todd Myers, a good friend of the Wrestling Epic Center site, confirmed the news on Facebook, as has the promotion's own Facebook account. This is what he said. Well, the cat's out the bag. After 2 short years, Mid-Atlantic Territory Wrestling will be debuting on national television. This Saturday in Yorktown, Virginia, we will be taping the first episode, which will debut on Tuesday, April 29th at 8 p.m. on Right Now TV. The network is available in over 90 million homes across the country and beyond on their Roku channel, as well as their website at rightnowtelevision.com. I am proud to be part of this, and even prouder of everyone else involved who has worked together to put this into fruition. If you guys want to know that website again to check this out, it is rightnowtelevision.com.
And didn't you just say they now does that right now television.com, did you just say they also have a Roku channel as well?
Yep, but they say
they're on watch.
Roku.
Okay, that's cool. You know what I'd like to say about that, and I anticipate, because I want to see. I was a fan of Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling pre Jim Crockett. Kind of, moving them out, not really taking over the territory, but kind of dwarfing Mid-Atlantic into the National Wrestling Alliance. But I love those style belts. That was the cool thing when Billy Corgan bought the NWA and kind of revised the NWA. Is not only was the 10 pounds of gold, the retro belt, but everything pre Jim Crockett promotions, from the tag team titles, the United States title on down, was the old school. And that was one of the most beautiful looking belts, was the old Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling belt that had all the state flags that represented Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling. So I kind of hope they do that, but nonetheless, hope they do well as always, because doesn't matter if it's indie, AEW, TNA, WWE, it's a place for these men and women to work and for us to enjoy wrestling. So kudos.
Absolutely. The more successful promotions out there, the better it is for the wrestlers, and the better, of course, it is for the fans. Let's get into AEW, though. We started off with Jon Moxley with Marina Shafir against Shibata. Jon Moxley tried to bully Shibata, but of course he was unsuccessful. Shibata is a pretty damn good wrestler, but he wasn't good enough on this night as Moxley wins. Pretty good match. What are your thoughts about this?
I thought it was a good match. It was typical Moxley, brute brawling style. But just like you said, he wasn't in there with an ordinary wrestler. He was in there with somebody that could match him with that brute. Just happened to fall up short. I mean, one good thing, and I like high spots when they mean something. I like weapons when they mean something. Same with the blood. I was just glad, for the sake of just a kind of a break from the, Moxley Death Rider norm, that there wasn't much of that. It was more of just two guys getting in there, and duking it out, and Moxley, walks away with the upper hand. I think he was going to regardless, just because I think of the interaction afterwards, right? That I'm sure you're getting ready to allude to. But I mean, still a really good match. I don't have much to complain about that one.
Yep. Next we have the Bucks come out. They basically just came out to, well, at first there was a good stare down between Jon Moxley and the Bucks. The Bucks kind of was good job to Jon Moxley as he ended up leaving. But Matt and Nick Jackson, their message was basically, Hangman Adam Page, you're our guy, you're our friend. Which I foreseen this coming. They're going to muddy the waters so that we're left kind of in suspense. Was Adam Page out there Sunday to actually attack Swerve? And this is exactly what their intentions are. Kenny Omega did interrupt the Young Bucks to mock them before saying, you know what? I want to fight. And he went into the ring. The Rainmaker Okada then came out, but then we hear Swerve's music, and then from behind everyone's back, Swerve came in, clearing the ring with a chair. And I'll stop right there. I'm not gonna say this was terrible, but this was not one of Kenny Omega's best promos. No. I felt like I was watching a promo made for kids. Some of the things he said with the whole, talking about the doo-doo thing is just, it wasn't my favorite. Let me say that. You expect Kenny Omega to come in and to cut a pretty damn good promo, but like I said last night, we didn't have it. With the Bucks, like I said, they just came out to muddy the waters to really get the storyline going. That's what it involved themselves, Swerve, and Adam Page.
This is the issue I've had with AEW in the past. Now, I get, wasn't the best Kenny Omega promo by far, but not all of it was bad. Mm-hmm. He didn't really, it was, not to use some of his words, it was poo-poo the first part, right? Once he got to the part where he was talking about the diverticulitis and then pushing him off, seemed like he took more of a serious tone. From there forward, the promo was good, right? But a lot of times with AEW, it's hard to, you know, look past the bad to get to the good, right?
Mhm.
I'm not trying to be a AEW hater, but I think that's the problem in the past. Now, what I do like though, and here's what, gosh, I know I'm going to get let down and disappointed because they've done it. AEW writing has done it so much in the past, but you notice, okay, like you alluded to the stare down between the Bucks and Moxley, right? Okay, uh, Mox didn't stick around, and they kind of even gave that "man, you're full of shit" look as he was climbing over the rail. Okay, then here I thought here's the Bucks gonna come and bite off of WWE. You owe us a favor. We saved your title, right?
Mhm.
They didn't do that, which is good. I like that, right? I like that they didn't do that. But then it was kind of like you're like us. You're like you want what we want, right? But here's what I would like if I had the pencil, as it pertains to Moxley and the Bucks. I think to add more intrigue, I almost think like you need to have there three separate factions, so to speak. They're feuding with each other. You're going to have the Bucks and Okada, and then you got the Death Riders over here, right? Then you're going to throw Kenny Omega and Swerve here. But here's the intrigue, because there's something else that happened later in the show, right? That has to do with this. Where's Adam Page's alliance really lie? Right?
Right.
You're our guy. You're our guy. I want Adam Page to come out and say, if I was your guy, why didn't you help me with this? You see what I mean?
Right.
Now
Yeah.
you add more intrigue. I just have a feeling that they're not going to do that. I have a feeling we're going to get here with the return of Kenny Omega. We're going to get a rushed, uh, watered down, so to speak, if you rush it, between a match with him and Okada, right?
Mhm.
I think that they're going to rush that to All In, because that, don't get me wrong, that's a money match, but Kenny Omega is what, not even 24 hours, 48 hours back, Sunday or whatever, 72 hours, right? Give time for that story, even though they do have history, right? But I think if you want to go with that, you got to have all three of them fighting each other. You got to have the
Well,
Bucks. You got to even have the Death Riders. Oh, hold up, we're on our own, and you know what? We're not like you. And then Mox, they jumped the Bucks,
yeah.
right?
So with the Death Riders, I don't think that they're going to be involved very much more into what's going to be happening. Um, I think that the Adam Page storyline that's going to lead to him and Swerve getting together against the Young Bucks is going to overshadow the Death Riders. I think the Death Riders are going to be going doing their own thing for now. With Kenny Omega and the Rainmaker, I think that storyline is going to lead to them merging those belts together, because those belts are very, very similar and they need to be merged together.
And then it's
Um,
also
they don't
not to
have,
cut you
they
off.
don't have, they already have too many factions. So I
Yeah.
don't want to see more
Well,
factions.
I don't want to see a faction. I'm just saying, kind of like we've got mutual enemies, right?
Mhm.
Uh, Kenny Omega's got issues with the Bucks and the Elite. Adam Page has got beef with everybody, or something.
Right.
Just for the moment to sprout it off, because I do agree. I don't think the Death Riders as a faction have much more left in this story. I think if anything, it's just John Moxley and Marina Shafir, and that's only because John Moxley's the champion. I think
Mhm.
once he's no longer the champion, uh, the Death Riders probably won't last much longer.
Mm,
I don't see them without him staying in the world title picture. Right now, we could have a one-off back and forth. Hey, we got it. Now we got it back. If they don't do something similar to that, then I think if he loses it and doesn't get it right back, then that might be the end of the Death Riders.
no,
As
I think the Death Riders could be here for a while because there's so many different things they could do with them. They could use them to get into a feud with the Hurt Syndicate eventually for the tag team
That
titles.
is true.
There's all different types of things. I think that they're going to be here for a while yet. But so we go to the next match, which is kind of the segment with the Buck and Omega kind of led into the next match with Swerve Strickland versus Pac. Uh, Swerve Strickland threatened the Young Bucks, but he couldn't finish his thought. Pac then attacked him from behind. That's when we go to the actual match. Like I said, the injury, Pac landed badly on the buckle bomb, and that's when the two men were pushed right to the finish. I have to believe that they called an audible and finished that match quickly because he was injured. Because if not, that literally means that this was a squash match with Swerve Strickland. There's no way Pac would be involved in a squash match. So that's how I know that he was injured.
Especially being
So,
involved with the Death Riders.
right. Yep.
Right. You know,
Yep.
if he doesn't have that association with the Death Riders, and then, you know, like you said, it was an audible wasn't called, and it was a squash, then that, I won't say it means something, but it doesn't hurt as much as if it was actual squash and him being a Death Rider.
Yep. Yep. So regardless of it, we've seen that Swerve defeated Pac by pinfall. Swerve then delivered a message to the Young Bucks, looked directly to the camera, and it was basically a warning that he's coming for them. Next, we see Hangman Adam Page charge past Renee Paquette to Swerve's locker room. He found Prince Nana. He wanted to know where Swerve was at. Nana was like, he's out taking care of something. I really don't know. As Adam Page turned around to walk out, we seen Nana call out his name. He tried to apologize, but Page was like, I don't want to hear none of that. And he walked directly out of the dressing room. Again, this is leading to Swerve and Hangman Adam Page kind of putting things to the side to go after the Bucks.
Yes. That's why I say that makes perfect sense, because what I was just alluding to, and I didn't want to bring up the segment yet,
Right.
because it's almost like he wanted to apologize. Because look, if he still wanted to meet on the bone with Swerve, we're going to go another round, he would have jumped Nana. He would have left. Oh, Swerve's not here. Well, here, give him this message. Jumped on him, put some knuckle knots on him, and then left him laying. He didn't, right? So it tells, just like you said, the Bucks are trying to, just like they did when they brought on Jack Perry, right? To throw salt into the CM Punk wound, right? Now we're wanting to make money with Swerve, but there's two of us and only one of him. Adam Page is our guy. He's our guy. No, I'm not. No, I'm not.
Right.
And then I would almost love it to where they kept a surprise of Swerve and Hangman tagging together till right to the match, right? Who's Swerve's partner going to be? Hangman's already, kind of gave the Seth Rollins, I'm not messing with you type thing, only to turn around and or Sami Zayn, I'm sorry. I'm not joining the bloodline. I'm not going to War Games, only to join them at the end, right?
Yeah.
I would like that intrigue surprise.
So
they do that as a pay-per-view.
Yeah. So I think what's going to end up happening is, we know in the Owen Hart tournament, Hangman is going to be facing the wild card. I really do believe the wild card will be Swerve. I think that it's going to be during that match that there's interference, forcing Hangman Adam Page and Swerve to come together to fight off the Young Bucks, who's going to interfere in that match.
Yeah, because here's a scenario like that. They're having a banger of a match, right? Swerve and Adam. And the Bucks come out to interfere when it didn't need to be needed. And Hangman can be like, hold up, I didn't need your help. And then Swerve's already going to be pissed off at him. So now they've got the mutual enemy. I'm also glad that right now that the tag belts are on the Hurt Syndicate and not on somebody else, because I feel that if you're going to get this tag match with the Bucks versus Swerve and Adam Page, that if the tag belts were on anybody else, the Bucks would. We already know what they would do, but next thing
Right.
you know, eventually when the match happens, it'd be for the belts. I don't want to see
Well,
that.
unfortunately, David, I think the way that this is going to go down is the Young Bucks is going to jump in. They're going to initially beat the snot out of Swerve. Heyman's going to kind of act like he's confused. They're going to hold Swerve and tell Heyman to get a shot in, and Heyman's going to still kind of look like he doesn't know what to do, only to end up kicking the shit out of Young Bucks.
A la Sami Zayn Royal Rumble 2024
Yeah.
2023.
Yeah, unfortunately, they don't do a whole lot of original shit. It's usually
Yeah.
the same
Well,
shit, and
here's the
just
thing though.
making shit.
It's the thing with the pro wrestling. You show me one idea that's done now. That's seriously. Show me one story plot idea or whatever that's done now that wasn't originated or rehatched from something 10, 15, 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago.
I can't
Look,
name one. I can't name one, but only one, and that's
what's that?
the timeless Tony Storm thing. That's the
Yeah,
only
yeah,
one
okay. There's
that I think
one.
is
But
original.
I
But
mean, even
other than
WWE,
that, you're
they rehatched their own things. Look,
right.
the shocking Cena heel turn. That was, people talk about it was Hogan's was shocker, the NWO. No, I think, me personally, Andre the Giant turning heel was more shocking than Hulk Hogan.
You're right, but I want to stick to AEW.
Yeah, no, no, no. But I'm just saying the shock
No,
moments when you
right,
alluded to that. I'm
right,
sorry.
right. No, I agree. So in a pre-taped preview promo, Ricochet is with his partners for the $400,000 explosive at 8-man tag. And he basically says, I'm in charge, I'm the leader. And of course, he has Beast Morto and Leo Rush and Action Andrade kind of looking at him like, what the fuck you talking about? Um, it was a little entertaining. This led to the actual match. Like I said, it was for $400,000 explosive 8-man tag match. It was Osprey, Briscoe, and Bailey, who I just don't like, and Kevin Knight versus the Beast Mortos, Leo Rush, and Action Andrade. Good match. It was typical for these type of guys on what we was going to see. At one point, we seen them each get their own shot in. Ultimately, this led to Osprey, Briscoe, Bailey, and Knight winning the match, each getting the $100,000. Each getting $100,000. I always laugh at these matches where if you win this match, you get 400,000 or
Yeah.
1,000 or a million. It's like, come on. There's not a wrestling fan in the world, at least in my opinion, that is so goofy that they actually believe that these guys are going to get 400,000. To me, it would have been better, and I would have been more invested if they took one person out of the match on each side, made this a 6-man tag with the winner being the number one contender for the triple belts that
Yes.
Death Riders have. I don't know why they came up out of the blue with this $400,000 crap. That's the thing that really, I'm not saying the match wasn't good. It was good. It was entertaining, but I wasn't as invested as I could have been if they would have made this match actually mean something. I know the $400,000 supposed to make us invested. It's supposed to make it mean anything, but really it doesn't. It's that number one spot that would have, really had me invested into this.
Exactly, because hey, the money for we're gonna win this much money. That's stuff you have for contests for up and comer, a tough enough type thing. Um, that was kind of like old school stuff. Did you ever really believe that this guy was going to get 25,000 for this battle royal at say at a Mid South show when Bill Watts is probably the house probably wasn't but $5,000, right?
Right.
You mean to tell me he's going to take an extra 20 grand out of his pocket, right? Same thing. I'm not saying Tony Khan's got the money. So if you're going to make that more believable, have Tony Khan out there with actual bank bags, right? When the
Yeah,
winners,
David, but you know
you're not
what?
doing that.
David, Khan may have the money, but let's just be completely honest and real. And I'm not dogging AEW. I love AEW. Let me repeat myself for all of the goofballs out there. I love AEW. I look forward to them coming on Wednesday nights. Love watching it. I watch it every night. Have been watching it since they debuted. But let's be honest. I don't think they sold $400,000 worth of tickets last night.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
That's what I'm saying. So you got to take out the comical stuff and make it a little bit more believable and worth something. Give them, look, okay, even if it was really for $400,000, right? And going through the back, they each got 100,000. They're still getting paid regardless. Make it mean something to the fan. I'm not going to buy a ticket to watch you win money. I'm going to buy a ticket to watch you win a match to earn an opportunity to go for a belt like you see behind me.
Let me disagree with you for a second, because you brought something up. You brought Mid-South Wrestling up, and they used to do these tournaments quite often. But this is the difference. They built to this match. They had storylines. Match. They made it feel important. And it wasn't even important because you wanted Dusty Rhodes was whatever that was involved in it. It's not even it was important to the fan because we wanted Dusty Rhodes to win that money. No. It was actually important for Dusty to win because of them fucking Dusty over. And we wanted to see Dusty be able to pay these people back for the ass kicking they had to give them.
And not only that,
so you can hold on. So you can have a match like this and actually have it mean something and the fans be invested. But the only way to do it is to have a storyline building up to this. It can't have be a build up to it. Dynamite, and then all of a sudden we see this match announced. Who gives a fuck? It's not important to us. Why should we care?
It was thrown together and they thought of attracting money. But yeah, I know you're alluding to the Bunkhouse Stampede.
Yes.
Right? Not only that, like you said.
And fans, this is why, hold on, David. And fans, this is why I call Dirty Mitch the Wrestling Encyclopedia, because I am an avid wrestling fan. I can remember matches. I can remember who won match from back in the day. But this fool here, the Encyclopedia, Dirty Mitch, this guy can tell you the pay-per-view that it was on. He can tell you the date. So much detail that this guy remembers. And this is why he is called the Wrestling Encyclopedia.
And I appreciate that. So with the Bunkhouse Stampede, remember, like you just said, it was about Dusty getting revenge, right? Because remember, the build to the match was come as you are, dressed as you will, right? And everybody was in street clothes, cowboy boots and stuff. But it wasn't just say, hey, we're going to have this match at the Nassau Coliseum, right? And do this, and the winner gets a boot and $25,000. There was build up because you had to qualify. You had to they had, I remember, weekly leading up to that, battle royals. The winner of this battle royal qualifies for the Bunkhouse Stampede next month, right? They had qualifying matches. So you had a build to it, which made that meaningless boot, bronze, whatever it's made of. It looks pretty cool. And, if they really did get 25, there was a build up to it. It meant something. These short, all of a sudden, there wasn't even advertised. That's the thing. I seen the advertisements for Dynamite before, last night. That match wasn't even advertised.
Right.
It wasn't even on the marquee. It's just kind of like some of those back in the day with WWE during the Attitude Era when they had 30 matches in a 2-hour show. Oh, all of a sudden, oh my God, we got a bra and panties match. Now, granted, those are entertaining. Meant nothing. No build up. Right. Same thing. And that's unfortunately, I'm like you. I like AEW. right? I try to find as much positives, but it's things like that that take away from the positives, right?
Yeah. Well, to me, so and I'm only speaking for myself, David.
Mhm.
Um, it doesn't really take away from the positives to me, but what it does is it like I said, it causes me not to be invested. And the reason why for myself, and I'm only speaking for myself, it doesn't really take away from the positive. And I've said this 1,000 times. If you watch this podcast, or if you
Mhm.
talk to me personally about professional wrestling between AEW and WWE, you've heard me say this over and over again. I don't even compare the brands because WWE is I'm watching WWE for the storylines. That's where I expect to get my great storylines from. AEW is where I expect to get my great wrestling from. But even though I'm not really looking for storylines at AEW because they really don't do a whole lot. If they do, is very short storylines. At the same time, if you're going to have this type of match, make me want to be excited about it and invested. So either build to this match or
Give me a
don't have it
couple
at
weeks.
all and make it a number one contendership match.
Yeah, either give me a couple weeks, give me 2 or 3 weeks, and either qualifying matches or hey, whatever, to build to it. But just like you said, if not, if you make it, hey, if that match last night is thrown together as it was, non-advertised, but once it was brought out that this is for the number one contendership. Okay, I'm gonna watch. I'm gonna be like, okay, not like you said, I get it. Mike Speedball, Mike Bailey's not for everybody, and I'm still, not sold on him, but I would have still watched,
Great
right?
competitor. He's a
Yeah,
great
great,
competitor.
great competitor.
I like watching him in the ring, but as far as his character, I
No,
just, I'm not that invested in him. And look, if they wanted to do this $400,000 match, fuck, do it $400,000 plus the number one contendership type
yeah,
of a thing. Because look, what I'm wondering is why are they having a $400,000 match? What made Tony, you know what I'm saying? I want to know the whys, and it wasn't there.
yeah,
Enough time on this match, though.
yeah.
Let's go
We
to the
spent
next
more
thing.
time on the match than the actual match itself.
Right, right. Um, Tony Schiavone during the match called Ospreay the leader of AEW, the leader that they need right now. I think this is possibly foreshadowing the road to our end, but this is the problem with what he said and why I kind of rolled my eyes. At one time, AEW was pushing us so much, and we kept on talking about the four pillars of AEW. Uh, Sammy Gamora. It was what's his name again? He's off climbing the mountain.
Darby Allen.
Darby Allen, MJF. I can't remember. Oh, and Jungle Boy.
Yeah,
Right.
Jungle Boy. Well, and then you could have
These
made an
these
argument for
these
Britt Baker,
these
but
these, these supposedly were the four pillars of AEW, basically the foundation for this company.
yeah,
We only have MJF right now. Where's the other guys? We know Darby's out climbing a mountain. Sammy's with ROH. I mean, so to say that, Will Ospreay, we think that he's the leader, it really made me roll my eyes, not even care about what they said because of the fact of how they misused those other guys. And by the way, guys, the whole Jungle Boy thing, um, this will be returning to AEW. I have it from a good source that soon as shit dinosaur what's his name again? He's out injured. My main memory.
Luchasaurus.
Luchasaurus. Fuck, you think I've been smoked for the devil's lettuce? I haven't. So the plan is when Luchasaurus comes back, some way, somehow, he's going to break away from Christian, leading to Perry coming back as Jungle Boy again, and we're going to have them reunited. I think they finally realized that trying to have Perry as a heel does not work because I would never buy him as a heel. He is a natural baby face. Again, I got this from a good source. Not saying things won't change beforehand, but this is supposedly what is going to happen once Luchasaurus comes back. Going back to this topic though about if Ospreay being what AEW needs, being this big leader. Ospreay's great, don't get me wrong, but for Tony Schiavone to say that there's really there's nothing behind it for
There's
me
no
to be
basis
like,
for it. He's done
right,
nothing.
right,
There's nothing that Osprey,
right.
unfortunately, no offense and no discredit to
Well,
him, but there's nothing he's done in the short time that he's been there that set him apart from the pillars, or well, not
well,
the pillars, but
right.
just the guys that are there now, right?
Yeah, but this is the
You've
thing,
had
David.
good man.
It's not even though about if Osprey has or hasn't. It's about the fact that we heard Tony Schiavone and everyone else constantly push us to the four pillars, when in fact, as I said, it is as of right now, where are the other three pillars? They're nowhere to be found
Yeah.
except for MJF. So I think saying those type of things, Tony, they really not. I don't think they should be saying these things right now because fans aren't dumb. They
No.
try to treat us like we have memories. Even though I do have a bad memory. They want to treat us like, oh well, all this other shit didn't matter, or they won't remember it. But we do. Do you think it's a big deal that Tony Schiavone said this, and I'm reading too much into it, or do you kind of see where I'm going with it?
I see where you're going with it, but yeah, here's what I get. Here's what I think. Was it obviously it was an ill-fated comment, right? Well, an unearned comment.
Right.
And especially when you have others and you don't now should it if he would have preluded that comment to at one time, brought up the four pillars. At one time we had this and this, and unfortunately all we have is this. So now Will Ospreay appears to be the leader we need.
Right.
That would have made sense. It was almost the context of the comment did not fit the narrative, right?
And hold on, let me just and David, to your point, if he would have said that about the four pillars, but now we need a new leader because they either failed us or most of them are here. You know what else I would have done? That would have planted the seed to fans, making them wonder. I wonder if Darby Allin's coming back soon, or I wonder if Sammy Guevara is going to be back on the. It would have planted seeds of people wondering, is this going to lead to some type of feud between Will Ospreay and one of the other four pillars? Because Will Ospreay's now trying to take our spot, type of a thing.
So then that makes you wonder, on one hand, was that one of Tony's lines he was supposed to say, or is that something Tony ad-libbed himself, right? And if it was somebody ad-libbed himself, then hey Tony, you jumped the gun. Same way if it was somebody in his ear saying, you need to say this at this moment, shame on them for the premature, accolade.
Right.
It kind of works both ways. It's kind of like what we was talking about SmackDown, who was the better, who's supposed to take over, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's a little bit, if Tony was told to say that, then Tony should have reworded it in a way that made it more sensible.
Agreed.
That would have made it, that would have took the sting out of the comment. And then also he didn't ask to be the leader of AEW, right? So now you're not putting a unwanted target on his back or ego.
Right.
Or,
and here's something else, right? If he was possibly doing this to foreshadow the road to All In, why Will Ospreay? There's still enough originals there. Why would you go with an original? Because I think part of AEW's problem is, and why they don't have asses and seats like they used to, is because of the fact that he had so many talented guys that were the originals that fans were really into. This is why we were watching AEW to begin with.
Warlow
completely replaced, with WWE guys, which, don't get me wrong, I love the fact that other wrestlers from other promotions like WWE or even TNA have a place to come to whenever their contract ends or something happens. I love that for them. They deserve it. But the guys, the original guys from AEW, the guys that put the asses in seats and why everyone was watching, because it was different, they also deserve not to be pushed to the back because of
Yeah,
the new
exactly.
talent.
Don't
So
not every
I think hold
WWE
on, David.
guy coming in.
So hold on, let me finish. So I think that if he was going to call someone a potential leader for one of their biggest pay-per-views, which is All In, it should be an original. Nothing against Will Ospreay.
Excuse me.
Don't die
To
on
your
camera.
yeah, no shit. To your point, so when it comes to the originals, right? If oh god, if Will Ospreay, for them to say that and him not be in the current main event title picture, that's where that's not warranted. You're in the main event now. If he was the one going after Moxley and not Swerve, and he's the one
Right.
falling up just that much short because of the Bucks or Okada or whoever, the Death Riders, then that's something. But that was a comment that should have been saved for Swerve. Swerve right now, obviously, I mean, whoever they're going to put in to go against Moxley next. But, here's the thing. So,
honestly, I think it
with
should have
Darby,
been Hangman Adam Page because Hangman has been there from the
there's
very
another one
beginning,
that was, yeah,
not
he's
Swerve.
still considered, even though when you say the pillars, the aforementioned, you could replace Sammy Guevara with an Adam Page and talk about four pillars and not go wrong. Same way why I brought up Britt Baker. She was
Right.
the original female pillar, right? But I still think, this is just me. You mentioned the X Factor, and he was a pillar. Darby Allin is set to return. The timetable of when is still uncertain. To me, biggest pay-per-view of their year is All In Texas. I'm not saying that all of a sudden Darby's back the week before All In and he's in. No, I think you end the show. Look, the man, I don't care how high he got, attempted to climb the tallest peak in the world, right? He was already, what I mean is he's a daredevil. If you want to get behind somebody and a pillar, that's the one you strap your rocket to.
See, but this is my
Now,
problem,
do
man.
I mean
I
you could
cannot.
sell tickets? Hold on. Here's the long term problem with that is that if you do right and you put the belt on him either after All In, where do you go from there? Because that's like a Brian Danielson. The story with those guys isn't afterwards; it's getting there. Like you said, at one time they had the pillars. I want to know where Wardlow is,
Right.
please.
But this is the problem with Darby Allin. The guy, don't get me wrong, what makes him great in the ring is because he's a daredevil, right? But do I buy him as a world champion? I'm sorry, I don't, because I just don't buy him being this badass that can defeat a lot of these guys. I mean,
Okay.
let me finish. I think that the night that he beat Brody King, terrible, terrible.
Yeah.
Even in my be trying to suspend my disbelief, couldn't do it. Now you brought up, you kind of compared him to Brian Daniels or Daniel Bryan, whatever the fuck he goes by. Look, this is the thing though. With him, you can buy he defeats these people because of his veteran status, because of the technical wrestler that he is. I'm sorry, Darby Allin, not sellable to me.
Okay. I'm gonna bring. Here's where I'll disagree and why I think Darby Allin is sellable short term. Long term, no. Right. I'm gonna give you one prime example. I'm gonna dig back deep in the time crate. So was Jeff Hardy believable as a world champion then?
Yes, and I'll tell you why.
Hold on,
Jeff,
they're too similar. They're both
no.
daredevils in the ring. Is
But let me
Jeff
tell you
Hardy a
why though.
technical guy?
Let me tell you why. At least Hardy has a build to him. He looks like he's in the gym. He has a build to him. He looks like he can take care of himself.
Was he
My kid is bigger than Darby Allin.
Well, that is true. Darby is small, and I have seen him in person. He is pretty small, but so is Rey Mysterio. But was it believable when Jeff Hardy beat Triple H? Now that was a story, right? With the two-man power trip. But take that story out. Would that been believable if Jeff Hardy beats him for the Intercontinental title?
Absolutely not. And this is why I didn't.
That's the same way with Brody King.
But this is why I didn't want him to win. I think when they go that way, it's ridiculous. Having Darby Allin beat Brody King hurts Brody King. It really does. It's like, are you kidding me? You know, it's the same thing when Big Bill and Cage gets beat by freaking Action Andrade. I mean, it's not believable, and it hurts that talent.
I see your point. You know, I that's kind of with AEW though. Like if not Will Ospreay, then who?
As a leader,
who do you want?
Again, you could have Heyman Adam Page. You can have who's the other originals on there? I would have to go and get a list of the originals. But that's a problem. The problem is that I have to go get a list to remember the originals that are there because they are not featured, and that is the problem. Because we should have more originals being featured, and when it comes to needing a leader, it should be very easy to pick one of the original.
And they don't.
You know,
they don't have that. And I think that's, again, which is where the ill-fated comment about Will Ospreay being the leader that they need, where it originated from.
Right. But let's get back into it. The Hurt Syndicate comes out, and as Bobby Lashley is starting to cut a promo, we get MJF's music, and he gets to the ring, and he stands side by side. It's him, Shelton Benjamin, MVP, Bobby Lashley. This was great. I laughed my ass off.
Best segment of the show, in my opinion.
Right, because you can actually really believe that MJF is so arrogant that he would do that, thinking because he hit Big Bill with this ring on that he now belongs with the Hurt Syndicate. It boiled down to Bobby Lashley saying, "Look, I don't like you, little fucking ass."
Yeah.
MVP's like, "Well, we know how I feel about him, but sorry, MJF. In order for you to be in the Hurt Syndicate, we have to have 3 thumbs up." Shelton Benjamin gets the first vote. Thumbs down leads Bobby Lashley and Shelton Benjamin to hug one another, saying, showing they're on the same page. And then walking up the ring with MVP kind of looking at MJF like, you have to give him a reason why, type of a thing. I do think that this is going to lead eventually to MJF joining the Hurt Syndicate. My problem with that is if that does happen, every faction that he has belonged to, he has turned on, destroying the faction. I really hope that this is not. I hope that this isn't going to lead there, because the Hurt Syndicate, they need to stay together, and they need to stay together for a long time.
So here's where I will disagree and throw a swerve. Now, no pun intended. Here's where I liked the segment. Yes, totally entertaining. To the point where it almost seemed like you want to talk about a veteran knowing when to take over. MVP. I'm not saying that. Okay, Bobby Lashley's a stud, been a stud, right? Former Kansas State wrestling champion, right? When he was parents were stationed in Fort Riley, Kansas, before he joined the Army. The thing is, he cannot hang with MJF on the mic. Right. Very few people in wrestling right now across any company can, right? At that one point where, remember when Lashley's, he's got the mic, I'll kick your ass, whatever. And I like the fact that MJF, instead of saying Bobby, he kept saying Bob. Bob, right? I wish you would have said Robert. That would have made it even more funny. But Lashley's trying to say something. You can tell he's starting to get flustered a little. That's when MVP did the veteran thing.
Right.
Stepped in, backed him off, cooled it off, took the mic, right, and reeled it back in. Here's where I don't think they're going to let him in the Hurt Syndicate. I just brought his name up, Wardlow. Now,
yeah,
I don't know what the status, but here, think about this. The last time we really seen Wardlow dominant was when he beat the brakes off of MJF right before his little suspension, right?
Yeah. Just to answer your question real quick, the last I checked, Wardlow is actually back on the indie scene. I don't think he signed with AEW anymore. I'm pretty sure they even removed him from the marquees. I think I have to go back to check, but I think
I would love to see them bring him back, right? Because I would love a segue. Oh, like almost to the point where Lashley and Shelton Benjamin beat him down. And it's like, who could I go get? That, probably thinking I could hang with Shelton Benjamin. But who can I get for Lashley here? Wait a minute. This guy whooped my ass within an inch of my life. Tony, call him, But if he doesn't, if he's gone and done with the AEW, good luck to him. I just don't know who they would get, I don't want to see MJF in the Hurt. I don't think it would work. I don't think it would work at all.
It doesn't even look good together.
No, there's no hit. Okay, the only one he's got history with is MVP,
and he has history with Shelton Benjamin.
Yeah, but here I would no.
But this is the problem.
I wouldn't want them to swerve one of them and turn one of them off the group.
Hold on. This is the problem, though, is his history with Benjamin is in the indie scenes. No one would probably doesn't even remember anything about those two back then.
No.
So,
the thing, well, you could get, but do you throw Lashley out of the group? Right? If he joined the group, that's what I mean. So I don't see them. I just don't know who they would get, who they would couple with MJF to take on the Hurt Syndicate.
Yeah. I mean, that's a good question. Good question. So next we have Penelope Ford warning the women's division that Megan Bayne would make everyone bow down starting at Collision. I really hope that we're going to see Megan Bayne against Monet. I would love to see Megan Bayne be the first one to pin Monet and get that title, but we don't know as of yet what they're going to do with her, with the exception of on Collision, she's going to start her destruction again.
I agree. She has to be the first one to beat Monet because that will set up her and Britt Baker at All In, right? And Megan Bayne walks out of All In, right? Look, if you don't do Megan Bayne versus Monet at Double or Nothing, you have to do it at All In. Either way, Megan Bayne is walking out of All In, the AEW women's, she's going to beat Mercedes Moné. It's going to be, that might even be match of the night. I'm not saying giving too much credit to Mercedes Moné, but when she's in there with the right partner, she can put on, banger matches. But I'm enjoying this buildup of Megan Bayne, and I just hope it keeps going forward. I hope they don't lose no steam with it if she isn't the first one to beat Monet.
Well, I think that one thing that they could do to really build her up is have her actually be the one that's going to win the Hart Foundation tournament.
Yeah, there you go. And then makes that more meaningful. Then that's another act, because then right now, I mean, Mercedes Moné could eat her up and be like, what have you done to deserve this? I've done this, and this, and went here and faced this person. What have you done? Right. Now, okay, I won the one, okay, that is a big deal, right? But I think
let me ask you a question real quick. I know last year, whoever won the Hart Foundation tournament actually became the #1 contender for a title match. I didn't hear them say that this was a stipulation this year. Did I miss something? Or
I didn't hear that either, and I'm wondering if they're doing away with that or if that's going to be brought up later on. Hey, one of those surprise, meaningless announcements. Oh yeah, by the way,
right,
you know, Megan
well,
Bain won the tournament a couple months ago. Since she did that, we're going to give you this.
right. Well,
That
part of
dilutes the tournament.
right,
But yeah,
part of the
I didn't
problem.
hear no announcement.
Part of the problem AEW deals with is there's no consistency.
Yeah,
Speaking of the Owen Hart tournament, the next match, Chris Statlander against Thunder Rosa. I tell you, I was expecting Thunder Rosa to win this. I was shocked when Chris Statlander actually beat Thunder Rosa.
I was
Good match,
sad.
hard hitting match, surprise winning, in my opinion, with Chris Statlander beating Thunder Rosa. During that match, we had Tony Storm out there being, on the commentary, being as excited, being as entertaining as she possibly can. Um, we'll see what's going to happen within the Hart Foundation tournament. And we're also going to be finding out pretty soon, I think, what's next for Tony Storm. Next we have Don Callis. He promised victory for his family in the Owen Hart. And then he said, send your resume, send your pictures. I have an open spot for somebody in the Don Callis family. I just have this strong suspicion that it's going to be the Murder Hawk that is going to be taken out of the Don Callis family, and that's who they're going to replace him with somebody.
That you talk about a guy that's misused.
Oh my God! In every promotion,
Lance Archer has look. Okay, hold on. He wasn't misused in TNA. When he was Lance Hoyt, they're not misused. That's where he got his legs wet, right? It was after that. Obviously that was a blueprint that the guy could work. The
right,
guy could entertain. The guy could do stories, right? It's what's happened, the misuse of him afterwards from WWE, AEW, I'm any place else. I think he even went to MLW for a little bit,
right,
but he's just been misused. And then you've got, AEW, portrays him as this, murder hawk, this killer, this savage, but you don't do nothing with him. And then you kind of have him job off to people.
smaller people too. That's what I'm saying.
Thank you. If I'm that big, I wouldn't mind jobbing, but the guy better be as big as me.
Right.
Right? Because then that makes it believable. That means, okay, hey, that guy was just, he was just 5 pounds heavier and 1 inch taller. But I'm 6'6", 300 pounds. Why am I losing to a guy 5'3", $150?
Exactly.
Make that make sense.
And he has been repackaged so many times. Yeah, I don't know what's gonna be next for him. Next we have Adam Cole, who is now the TNT champion. He talked about what it meant for him to be the TNT champion, and they also said that the Undisputed Kingdom in 2025 is going to be having more gold come their way. I foresee these guys turning heel.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Hey, you go look at all of their work, whether it be NXT, the Black and Gold brand, or AEW. Adam Cole's best work is when he is a heel.
100%.
Look, love Randy Orton to death. He can do a few good babyface things, but Randy Orton's best work is a heel. Adam Cole is the same way, right? I did not care for the Adam Cole MJF story, right? It fell flat. And
I disagree. I think it was really entertaining. Where it fell flat at is when they had Adam Cole turn on him, and then months later passed by because of injuries. Next, Adam Cole comes back as the babyface, and MJF's the heel. That's what made it fall flat.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like I said, I'm more of a Adam Cole heel work, right?
Normally, I am too, but
So
with MJF, I thought it was entertaining. But I
yeah.
agree with you. I think that he is so much better as a heel. Speaking of heels, we have Chris Jericho saying that he is leaving until the learning tree does not disappoint him. Big Bill cut him off, said that he was not going to allow him to down talk him or to gaslight him. We see Chris Jericho flip out. They show him leaving the ring with his bat. We see him backstage destroying shit, ultimately leaving. Now, the real reason why Chris Jericho is being written off of TV is because Fozzy is going on a tour.
And you know what? Check this out. It's funny that you bring up Fozzy on tour because Friday, April 18th, in Wichita, Kansas, at the Cotillion Ballroom, Chris Jericho and Fozzy. I was so pissed that I won't be here. But yeah, it's that and the Jericho Cruise.
Right. Yep. So
even though they do some AEW stuff on the Jericho Cruise, they usually write him off of TV a little bit, or around those tour times and Jericho Cruise.
Yep.
But he needs the because the learning tree they're dead.
They're stale.
Yeah. Am I the only one that thought Big Bill was getting ready to give Jericho the big boot I was hoping. Hey, when he turned around to grab the bat, and after he hit the TV a couple times, and then turned around to do the fake tree, I for sure there's the spot. As soon as he turns around, Big Bill in the boot, I'm like, oh man, perfect opportunity. And then been like, is that a disappointment? And then walk off.
And well, speaking of disappointments, Big Bill's another big guy that misused. He's basically an enhanced talent. But you know what? And I'm going to keep this short because we're running close to time here. Andre the Giant and the Big Show were really the last two big guys that you really seen extremely successful in professional wrestling amongst, back was only WWE, but I think it's true for AEW. It's almost like being a big guy is almost a curse because often they're used to make our talent look stronger.
Great Khali.
Yeah.
There's another one, right?
Yep.
Was used, oh my God, it's 7 foot. Now I can get this guy at 6'8". It's a badass. He beats a 7-footer. I'm putting this guy over.
But at the same time, the Great Khali wasn't really a good wrestler, though.
No, he was. Look, he happened to be found on a movie set that Vince is like, hold up, I think you want to make some money? That's probably how it went, right?
Right.
Because you got no mic skills. The only intimidating thing about you was your look.
Right.
Right. At least with Big Bill, I think what happened with Big Bill, and I know you want to cut this short, but I'll leave it with this. I think after what happened after the release from WWE, right? And his mental health issues, right? Now, kudos to him, man, getting strong, finding a way to combat that, men's mental health. I think what he needs, seriously, he needs a return trip to WWE by himself. He had Enzo with him the first time, right? Now you come back by yourself, rejuvenated, new regime, and get that polishing, right? It's almost like you've got it all, kid, but there's something missing. I just can't quite put my finger on it. That's what I'm seeing with Big Bill.
On the flip side, though, I think if you brought Enzo to AEW, put those two back together,
there you go. That
too. I think that they would be the stars of AEW.
For the love of God, you want to stick it to the. I get it. I'm not into the tribalism, but they're between AEW and WWE. Tony's always looking to one up them. Not saying Enzo would be the biggest signing since CM Punk, which actually it would be, but the impact, because you got a guy that can carry himself on the mic, ad lib, and take shots at the other guy and make it funny.
Yep.
Right? Yep. And would sell tickets.
Yeah, I do agree that they would sell tickets. Next, we have AEW highlighting the return of Anthony Bowens, and it was announced that he would be fighting a Blake Christian on Collision. Unfortunately, as great as Blake Christian is, it's really looking like he's going to be an enhanced talent for AEW.
Yeah,
Next
I
we
agree.
have Claudio Castagnoli and Wheeler Yuta versus Samoa Joe and Hook. This turned into basically be a brawl. Ultimately, Hook was able to get Wheeler to submit, with them winning the match. Um, and the Death Riders after the match attacked them, with Joe eventually chasing them off. But Joe, he said this. He made it very clear why they should fear him and why he does not fear the Death Riders, no matter how many Death Riders there are. I really hope that Joe really gets pushed. I love Samoa Joe. I was talking about at the beginning of the podcast how I really don't think that the Death Riders is going to be too involved with the Young Bucks and the Swerve and Adam Page storyline. This is a big reason right here. I think that they're going to have the Death Riders in a feud with Optic, which is of course Samoa Joe, Hook, and Chikada.
Now, you know what? I I got to apologize to everybody and to you because with as much knowledge as I like to retain, I completely forgot about that trio when we were talking about the Death Riders earlier, right?
Right.
And you did start to bring it up, but you're right. If there's one guy that could single handedly stand toe to toe with every one of the Death Riders individually, it's Samoa Joe. If there's one guy that's not scared to stand toe to toe with all of them at the same time, it's Samoa Joe, right?
Right.
So I no, I agree that that is interesting because then, just like you said, we can with the Bucks, they can you know move their attention over that way. Kenny
Yeah.
Omega is, eventually that's going to go towards Okada, right?
Yeah. Well, what
We,
I like about this though is, you know,
but the
you
legitimacy, though,
but
that was it.
you have a team of Hook, Joe, and Shibata, right? Each of them actually fits going against the Death Rider, because you have Joe against Moxley, you have Hook against Willa, and
Yep,
you have Shibata against
Claudio.
Claudio, right? So this is a very
Almost equal pairings,
right,
across mirroring across from each other. Badass for badass,
right. So this is a very
wrestler for
believable,
wrestler, and
right, very believable feud between these guys. And I'll be honest with you, I would be tickled to death if this actually led to Samoa Joe against Moxley for the world title.
look, Samoa Joe never got when he lost the Swerve. I believe that's who he lost to. Never, I don't think he got a rematch. Now I know that that's passe and a thing of the past, but that's a point that he could bring up. Like, hold up, did you forget?
Right.
you know,
Well, what's great would be
or bring up like, look, you beat this person, that person, this person, but guess what? You ain't never beat me.
what
Then,
would
now,
be
or ever.
good. What the good thing about a title shot between Joe and Moxley is this. Although I don't think Samoa Joe's going to be the one that's going to take the title from Moxley, at the same time, though, we don't know if that's who they're going to drop the belt
Yeah.
to. So, because of the not knowing part, it would make it a good match, because it would be
Yeah, because you would have
suspenseful
the
for the
possibility,
fan.
like, oh crap, because
Right,
the fans like us, the older fans that have watched forever, we know that Joe's capable of beating John Moxley, but that
right,
11, 12-year old that doesn't know Ring of Honor Joe or early TNA Joe, right? They might not know what real kind of a real badass he is. So I think, but if you do, you got to have you do it like this. You got to have a singles match with each of them, right? Boom, 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 right? But before that, you've also got to have a straight out street fight brawl, right? With all 6 of them, with Marina Shafir handcuffed to the pole because she would be the X Factor, right?
Yep.
And but that's believable. I mean, you know, if I was the average fan, that would you know, at least make me tune in for a couple weeks, you know, because the real fans that watch it know that after a couple weeks, sometimes Tony tends to start writing the other way and storylines die and you know, things happen.
I'll be honest with you.
I just hope they don't do that with that.
I would keep Moxley and Joe completely out of a singles match scenario and save that for a pay-per-view.
Or you have a tag match between Hook and Sheba versus Claudio and Wheeler.
Well, you can
with stipulations on the line, like the stipulations for the Joe Mox or however they want to get down. We're gonna put that in their hands.
You can have a tag team match with Joe in it and with Moxley in it,
but almost have them keep them away from each other
for the most part. Absolutely.
Like every time Joe gets tagged in, Moxley runs and tags out.
Right.
Because he's the heel in this, so the heel has to backtrack, right? And then, you know, unfortunately, Moxley, and then if they do even touch each other, it's not to the end on a hot tag, right?
Right.
And but yeah, I could see that. Like I said, if they could keep the writing consistent, that would lead to something like that. It's a, you know, a modest AEW fan that would take the modest off and make it, you know, must see for me.
Yep.
I mean, I take it like this, but I'm a wrestling fan. I'm going to Collision. Will be here in Wichita on May 17th. I'll be there. So just to show everybody listening, hey, he hates AEW. No, I don't. If I hated AEW, why would I spend my money going to see him?
No, I wouldn't have anybody on the podcast that hated AEW or WWE. But guys, that wraps up the
I do hate WWE for their ticket prices.
that's the recap for Dynamite. Tomorrow at 5:30 Central, I am going to have Casey Thompson on. He was with WWE, WCW. He has his own podcast with Kevin Kelly. The guy is great, and we're going to be talking about his career in professional wrestling. That will be live only on YouTube. So please subscribe, share, and like. I really appreciate it. So I will see you all tomorrow night. Until then, you guys have a great Friday. Dirty Mitch, the Wrestling Encyclopedia. I will see you on Saturday for the recap of SmackDown.
Yes, sir.
And then,
stay safe, stay cool, and be kind to one another. And don't forget, hit that like, share, and subscribe button while you're at it before you go.
And ring the damn bell.
Yes, sir.